Firestarter, based on the Stephen King novel, which was a movie and now is another movie that is on, well, it's in theaters, but it's also on Peacock if you happen to have Peacock. So I don't have Peacock, by the way. I'm sure it's one of those things where, wait, can you sign up and get Peacock with like ads for free?
Yes, you can. Yeah, you can. I actually saw it on Peacock.
Funny?
Yeah, it was Firestarter presented by Best Foods.
Oh, real? So okay. Now I have to ask you a question.
Yeah.
So when you're watching Firestarter on Peacock, is it one of those things? Because I've watched a lot of movies on the free streaming services that are ad supported, and I don't have a problem with ads. I have a problem with seeing the same ad 20 times.
Yeah.
We're literally in the same break, and they even tell you sometimes what the break is. So they say 1 of 5, 4 minutes. So like, okay, 4 minutes of ads. There's 5 of them. I'll get through it. But they'll run the same ad 5 times in a row. What was the ad experience like for Firestarter before we start to talk about the movie? Because I'm going to guess some of these ads were better than the movie.
Yeah, I'll just for Firestarter, it was just a quick ad up front for Best Foods, and then it was just the movie. So there were no ads during the movie.
Whoa! And do you pay for Peacock?
I do, because I was I'm a wrestling fan, and I got Peacock for wrestling. For WWE.
Okay, so then, all right, so you pay to get the wrestling. What? Yeah. How much is it? And you still have ads and you pay?
Yeah, because I'm not going to spend that much money, and honestly, the Peacock ads are less obnoxious than like TBS or TNT. So I'm okay with it. It's even less obnoxious than Hulu. So I'm fine with the way Peacock is doing it. Also, Peacock is putting out more independent films than any other streaming, but that's another issue. But yeah, I think I'm paying $10 for it. And honestly, that's what I was paying for WWE Network when it was a separate service at the time.
So you literally are just getting Peacock
for wrestling.
For wrestling?
Or for the monthly pay-per-views.
Wrestling, Firestarter, and G4 TV.
Yeah. Is G4 on it? I haven't seen it on
I think G4 is actually on it. I think G4 is on the network. But let's get into Firestarter. Yeah. Alan, what are your thoughts?
I just real quick, I thought it was okay. But 2 things. One is, I remember watching Stephen King movies, made for TV movies, and they always felt scarier, especially the conspiracy theories that those type of TV shows, they always felt scary to me. And then I remember watching Carrie as an adult and being very frightened of the ending of that. And I'm like, why? I just didn't get that feeling with Firestarter. Felt very much like, like an X-Men movie. And with the conspiracy of X-Men, but I felt so like I was watching the movie as opposed to being a part of the movie or feeling the feelings of the characters. And so I'm okay with the story. I just felt like it needed more. I'm supposed to, if you're watching a horror movie, you want to feel scared, you want to feel terrified, and I just didn't get that with this movie.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this: I was in a movie theater, and I was surprised how many people were there. Actually, It was nearly half full for a 5:00 showing, and I was all in at the beginning, right? You kind of see, Charlie as a baby, and there's this experiment. They're injecting people who are then gaining powers. It felt very, what it felt like? It felt like a mutant movie, like an X-Men.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It felt like X-Men. It's an X-Men story, essentially.
It's like an X-Men story, like in the early comics, in the first 100 issues of the X-Men comics, they would do like an X-Men story, and then they'd have like the origin of Cyclops, which Cyclops, his origin was he was helping a jewel thief and a guy who had diamond hands. His mutant ability was his hands were kind of like made of diamonds.
Yeah.
And Cyclops had these, and they figured out how to give him these glasses when he was a kid. Cyclops has a kind of mundane origin story, but it felt like an X-Men origin story. The first third of the movie is like, this could have been, something right out of of early Marvel X-Men. But, you know, then you see the baby has these powers and whatnot. The parents know about it. Zac Efron plays the dad.
Yeah. And they
And
have powers themselves.
they have powers themselves. They're more mental abilities, you know, being able to kind of like get into people's heads and whatnot. But the more that Zac Efron uses these abilities, the more it's kind of like it's kind of driving him mad, and he'll bleed from the eyes. But it's just, and I was all in until we got to a scene. There's two scenes that like ruined it for me early in the movie. There's this assassin that's after them now. This company wants to get Charlie because they want to use her. They've finally tracked her down because the parents have kept themselves in hiding. They don't have Wi-Fi. They don't have cell phones. They're very secretive. And she goes to school, and she knows she's kind of different because she can blow things up. She gets pissed off at a kid that's kind of bullying her. So she goes to the bathroom, and it basically explodes one of the stalls with a ball of flame. Most of the fire effects are CG, and in the original they were real. So you can see there's a mix of CG fire effects and real fire effects, but the CG fire effects, they really seem CG. There's just no way they're going to put, you know, a 9-year-old kid in harm's way with fire, right? So like there's a scene where this assassin comes in, and he has abilities also. He's been activated to now track down the family and kidnap Charlie. And he goes and basically murders the mother by slitting her throat and then hides her in a closet. And once they sort of discover the assassin, whatever, and there's like this standoff between the assassin, Zac Efron is the dad, and Charlie, and the mother just sort of falls out of the closet.
This is the first act of the movie.
This is the first act of the movie, so I won't get into too much in the second act because I won't spoil it unless you want me to, because I don't think you're going to care too much about this movie. But like the mom's death is just not really, that's her freaking mom. That's, that's Zac Efron's wife. Like I feel like there should have been more weight behind her death. And I'm sure there were a lot of character scenes that were cut, and whatnot because of that. And I couldn't believe that death of the mom was just taken in such a glib way. Like, okay, we got to go. Not like grab the mom's body. Like, could she be alive? They didn't even really check her. Like, you just see this sort of horrific image of her dead. Like, that's it. And then you just run away. And then just following that, this is never something you want to have happen, where there's a scene where Charlie is confronted by a little kitty. There's this cute little cat, and she kind of goes to pet it and says, "Oh, little kitty," and it like scratches her. She gets angry and bursts a flame right at the cat and toasts it. And the entire theater burst out laughing. I mean, one, I don't want to see animals harmed at all, even if it's fake CGI. And not only that, the crispy cat, this sort of crisped version of the cat that's like half burned, is still gurgling and alive. And that Zac Efron comes up sort of teaching her how to kill, right? Like, in order to protect yourself, you're going to have to kill things, like put it out of its misery. And she does. And it's like the audience is laughing at the movie. Look, I love to laugh at a movie. I love when an audience is moved to respond to something happening with light and sound, right? Like applaud, whatever, get excited. But to laugh at the movie, that's not the reaction you want.
Yeah. I will say the same thing about the conspiracy, the organization. I don't know. There's just nothing behind it. It's a lot of talk. There's an important scene with Kurtwood Smith, and it's just talk. And we're supposed to get some kind of emotion from that. And it's like, I don't know. As much as I like Gloria Rubin as an actress, I don't feel like she put a lot of weight behind the menacing aspect of the organization she represents.
Yes.
And I think the best thing I can say about this is a good thriller depends on a good hero depends on a good villain. And I don't think the villain was good enough in this, because at the end, there was a Carrie-like moment. And I just, I was freaked out by Carrie. I was not freaked out by this one.
Yeah, it didn't have the weight. I mean, we've seen this before. We've seen it before because we've seen Firestarter, but it definitely felt kind of like, it felt like a throwback, very retro. But I haven't even gotten to the best part yet. And you watched it at home on Peacock but I was in a theater when this happened. So then they do like this little mini funeral. They didn't even do a funeral for the mother, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So the dead cat that she's just killed, and this scene comes right following the mother dying scene.
Yeah.
They're sitting there over the dead cat and they bury it and whatever. And they have this sort of mini funeral. And Zac Efron's character, the dad, says, well, he or she, they. He actually uses the they pronoun. And the audience went, like groaned, like, now is Firestarter, it's the one question we always get when we talk about movies. Is it woke? I don't think this movie's woke. I don't think it's woke. Did
I didn't
Alan?
think so. No, I mean it's true to the original, so
It's true to the original. I don't think it's woke, but the fact that at the cat funeral, Zac Efron as the dad is like, well, he, she, they. I don't think, do animals have pronouns now? I mean, I understand that other, people choose their pronouns.
Like our pets gender fluid.
Yeah. I'm
my
not
dog
among,
pansexual.
I'm not among that lot, and fine, they can do what they want.
Some animals are asexual.
But yeah, exactly. It's just like, I don't know. It was just like to see, and it's the only thing in the movie that is that. So there's not like, it's not like it's overly like they're throwing that stuff in, but the fact that like they threw that in, what it does is it takes me out of the movie because it reminds me, oh yeah, we're in the midst of all this sort of cultural, all this culture stuff happening that, like, when I'm reminded I see it in a movie, it's just sort of annoying. Or when I see it in a commercial, which is a lot of commercials these days, what it does is it just makes me tune out. So, I mean, it's a freaking cat.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, one thing woke about it maybe is Gloria Rubin as kind of the mastermind of this. I mentioned that she doesn't give a lot of weight behind it to really give off the menacing aspect of it. But at the same time, at least she was a real villain. I mean, she was a female villain, which I would submit that Wanda is a female villain, and female villains are not something we've seen a lot in the last few years. I think there's a woke fear of turning women evil, and not giving them some kind of a turnaround at the end. But at least they kept her the villain throughout the whole film.
Well, let's get to the comments and questions here because we'll respond. Better question, Toasty Danny. Is it better or worse than the original, Alan?
I have not seen the original, but after seeing Firestarter, they started playing a scene from the original movie, and I think from what I saw of the original movie, I think this one's better.
Yeah, can I just say this? The original wasn't that great either. I think someone even makes that. The original wasn't that great. This wasn't great. I would say your mileage may vary. So I would say it's a draw. But if you are going to remake, like Firestarter, like wasn't that great to begin with. So to remake it, it's like, well, this is an opportunity to improve it or expand the concept.
Yeah.
And I don't think the movie did that very well.
Let me ask you, did the parents have powers in the first one?
Oh my God. I saw it when I worked at a video store and I don't even remember that much about it.
Yeah, because from what I saw of the clip, it didn't look like the parents had powers, which I thought was an interesting dynamic in this movie.
Yeah, or maybe it was implied. I don't know. Also, if it's on Peacock, why was the old guy plugging Netflix all the time? Yeah, that's funny. That must have been, maybe they didn't know it was going to end up on Peacock. Maybe it was originally planned.
Well, it's a Universal picture. They knew it was going to.
Oh, that's right. Well, it's Universal's. Look, just because the logo is at the beginning doesn't mean when it started. Well, no, wait, it's Blumhouse.
No, it's a Blumhouse.
Sorry,
it's Blumhouse. So there's a standing agreement with Universal.
Yeah, it's a Blumhouse movie, and Blumhouse is a subsidiary of Universal or has a deal with them.
Yeah, they have a deal with
Chicago Box. Horror films are having a hard time being scary these days. Real world is scary enough already. So
that's probably true.
Lawrence Gillespie, weird remaking a movie that wasn't even that great. Yes, I referenced your Lawrence Gillespie. They pronoun audience groan, says Akanika.
Yeah.
Flaccid Phoenix. Wow, Chris, get with it. It's current year. Animals can be trans now. Can they?
Well, my cat acts like a dog, so maybe.
I've read stupider things from so-called legitimate news outlets. I've read stupider things, so I'm not surprised. Chicago box. I remember the original having great effects for the time. Mostly practical.
It was all practical.
Yeah, Flaccid Phoenix, based dad. And then, I was talking about the crispy cat scene. Trinoculus Pete. Maybe that scene was for China.
Yeah, no comment.
Any comment, Alan?
Oh, yeah. If you haven't tried it, then you can't really criticize it.